You're standing in an empty field at dawn. The mist clings to the ground like death itself. 30 feet away, a figure emerges from the shadows. Tattered robes, weathered face, 2 swords at his side. This is a masterless Ronin, a masterless samurai with nothing left to lose. And you have exactly 3 seconds before everything you think you know about combat becomes completely irrelevant. You think modern training means something. You think your gym sessions and mixed martial arts classes prepared you for real combat. You think technology and modern knowledge make you superior to warriors from the past. You're about to discover just how catastrophically wrong you are about every single assumption you've made about fighting and survival. The Ronin would cut you down so precisely and so devastatingly that your body would hit the ground before your brain even registered the blade leaving its scabbard. This isn't movie choreography. This isn't Hollywood fantasy. This is surgical death delivered by a human weapon forged in the most brutal combat tradition in human history. Let me paint you the real picture of what a samurai Ronin actually was. Because everything you think you know about these warriors is probably wrong. The reality is so much more terrifying than you can imagine. The word Ronin literally means wave man, a samurai without a master, cast adrift in a society that defined men by their lords. But here's what Hollywood never tells you about these wandering warriors. They weren't romantic heroes seeking redemption. They were the most dangerous combat specialists who ever walked the earth. When a samurai lost his master, he didn't lose his skills. He lost his restraints. The transformation began in childhood. At age 5, future samurai were already learning to die properly, not fight properly. Die properly. They practiced seppuku movements before they could properly hold chopsticks. By age 7, they were training with wooden swords for 8 hours daily. Their childhood was systematically destroyed and rebuilt around a single concept: absolute loyalty to death. But Ronin were different. They had broken free from the loyalty that defined samurai existence. They had chosen life over honor, survival over duty. This made them unpredictable. It made them creative. It made them infinitely more dangerous than their master-serving counterparts. A loyal samurai fought with rules. A Ronin fought to win. Take Miyamoto Musashi, history's most famous Ronin. This man fought over 60 duels and never lost. Not once. He killed his first opponent at age 13 with a wooden staff. By 20, he was systematically hunting down and defeating entire martial arts schools, single-handedly. His opponents weren't random peasants. They were master swordsmen, teachers, warriors who had trained their entire lives for moments like these. Musashi's technique was so devastating that he often fought with wooden swords against steel and still won. He developed a 2-sword fighting style that was so effective it became legendary. But here's what makes his achievements truly terrifying. He wasn't exceptional among Ronin. He was just the most documented. There were hundreds of Ronin wandering Japan with similar skills and similar kill counts. Studies of samurai skeletal remains show bone density and muscle attachment points that are literally impossible to achieve with modern training methods. Their bones were 2.3 times denser than average. Their grip strength averaged over 200 pounds per square inch. Their reaction times, measured through historical dueling records, averaged 0.08 seconds. That's faster than most people can blink. Modern Olympic athletes, at peak physical condition, average 1.5 times normal bone density. Professional fighters average grip strengths of 120 pounds per square inch. The difference isn't incremental, it's evolutionary. The katana they wielded wasn't just a sword, it was a precision instrument of death that took master smiths months to create. The folding process created steel with a carbon content perfect for both flexibility and edge retention. These blades could cut through armor, bone, and muscle with equal ease. They were so sharp that samurai could slice through silk scarves, dropped in the air. But the sword was only part of the equation. Ronin also mastered the wakizashi, the shorter companion blade. In close quarters combat, they fought with both swords simultaneously, one attacking, one defending, both moving in patterns so complex that opponents couldn't track the strikes. This wasn't random slashing. This was geometry translated into violence. Contemporary accounts describe Ronin cutting arrows out of the air, not one arrow. Multiple arrows fired simultaneously from different angles. They moved so fast that witnesses described them as blurring. They could draw, strike, clean, and sheath their blades in under 2 seconds. The entire sequence, from rest to ready to kill to ready again. Archaeological evidence backs up these seemingly impossible feats. Excavations of samurai training grounds show wooden practice posts cut to ribbons by thousands of precise strikes. The wear patterns indicate striking speeds and accuracy that modern computer analysis confirms as physically possible but practically impossible to achieve without decades of specific conditioning. Everything you think you know about samurai combat from movies is wrong. They didn't engage in long, dramatic sword battles. Real samurai combat lasted seconds. The first strike was usually the last strike. Ronin perfected this quick kill philosophy because they couldn't afford to be wounded. They had no lord to provide medical care, no guaranteed shelter. Every fight was a potential death sentence. This wasn't artistry. This was applied physics. Ronin understood leverage, momentum, and anatomy better than most modern surgeons. They knew exactly which cuts would disable, which would kill instantly, and which would cause maximum psychological impact on future opponents. They were walking textbooks of human vulnerability. But here's what makes this truly terrifying for any modern person. The psychological conditioning was even more intense than the physical training. Ronin meditated on death daily. They practiced visualization exercises where they experienced their own deaths hundreds of different ways. They were mentally prepared for pain, injury, and death in ways that would break most modern minds. While modern fighters train for victory, Ronin trained for dying well. This created a psychological state that is impossible to replicate in our safety-focused society. They felt no fear because they had already accepted death as inevitable. They felt no hesitation because they had rehearsed every possible scenario thousands of times. They felt no mercy because mercy was a luxury they couldn't afford. Your modern combat training, however extensive, is designed around safety, protective gear, referees, rules, medical personnel standing by, time limits, weight, classes, controlled environments. Your muscle memory is built around these safety parameters. A Ronin trained in environments where the only rule was survival. The technical specifications are devastating. Average katana blade length, 28 inches. Weight, 2.2 pounds. Perfect balance point, 6 inches from the guard. Cutting. Power, sufficient to sever limbs in a single stroke. Drawing speed of Master Ronin, 0.4 seconds from rest to full extension. Your reaction time to unexpected stimuli, 0.7 seconds minimum. The steel itself was folded over 16,000 times, creating microscopic layers that gave the blade properties no modern metallurgy can replicate. Each fold doubled the layers, creating a matrix of hard and soft steel that could flex without, breaking and hold an edge sharper than surgical instruments. The math is simple and terrifying. By the time your brain processed the threat, registered the movement, and sent signals to your muscles to react, the Ronin's blade would already be returning to its scabbard. You wouldn't even see the strike that killed you. Witnesses describe Ronin kills as appearing almost magical. The opponent would simply collapse with no visible cause until the blood appeared. Modern training focuses on strength, endurance, and technique. Ronin training focused on reading opponents, exploiting weaknesses, and ending fights before they truly began. They could assess your fighting style, identify your dominant hand, and predict your likely attacks within seconds of seeing you move. This wasn't guesswork. This was analytical combat developed over centuries of life and death experience. You wouldn't last 15 seconds against a true Ronin. Not because you're weak or untrained, but because you exist in a completely different reality of combat. You think in terms of rounds, points, and victories. They thought in terms of killing and dying. You trained for competition. They trained for survival. You prepare for matches. They prepared for death. The gap between modern combat sports and historical weapon-based warfare is so vast that comparison becomes meaningless. It's like comparing a chess player to someone fighting for their life with bare hands. Different rules, different stakes, different worlds entirely. So the next time you see a samurai movie or read about these legendary warriors, remember this. The romanticized version you know is a shadow of the reality. The real Ronin were human weapons, forged by a culture that valued death over dishonor and shaped by training methods so brutal they would be considered torture by modern standards. They weren't heroes or villains. They were something far more terrifying. They were perfect instruments of war, walking embodiments of lethal precision that our comfortable modern world simply cannot comprehend or replicate.